Hi, I'm Rachel, and this is my summer 2023 quarterly wrap-up video. I use these quarterly videos to wrap up my writing life. I give myself goals on a quarterly schedule, so when each new quarter begins, I need to check in to see how I performed on those goals and set myself new goals, and also just talk more generally about writing life stuff. So the way that I organize these videos is I break them off into sections, and you'll see the little markers come down the screen for each new section. And also, if you'd like to, look into the history of these quarterly writing videos, they're all on my AuthorTube playlist, which I'll link down below. So yeah, we're already a couple of days into October now, so without further ado, let's get into things. I'm going to start out on a great note, answering a tease that I put into my last quarterly wrap-up video. I wasn't really able to talk about anything publicly then because there was no public information available, but now I've had not one, but two short stories published. Last quarter, I knew about my short story Mishkan, which was accepted into an anthology called the Days of Awe Anthology. It's an anthology of Jewish short stories that center Jewish characters, Jewish joy, and Jewish resilience. And I wrote a post-apocalyptic short story based a lot on Station 11 by Emily St. John Mandel, which is a story I absolutely love. I was really happy to be able to try to pay my own sort of homage to that and try to work off of the feelings that that book gave me. But anyway, that book is now available as an ebook and hopefully soon as a paperback as well. And then another publication announcement I have that, wasn't a thing at the time a quarter ago is the publication of my story Lashon Hara in Fiction on the Web a couple of weeks ago. Fiction on the Web is a online literary magazine that publishes two stories a week. It's all curated, and it has been ever since 1996 by the Zine's founder, Charlie. Yeah, he accepted my story, and it went up, and it got some great comments on it, which was really very touching and awesome to see how that worked. And I feel like in a lot of ways I set out and accomplished what I meant to ever since I started this story a couple of years ago. So that was a really great feeling as well. So yeah. Future Rachel here to just give a little bit of a plug for Lashon Hara. It was inspired by the Good Art Friend, Bad Art Friend literary story debacle from a couple of years ago. And I wanted to test the theory of giving in to gossip and the anonymity of online behavior, but then being forced to take a step back and having your work become, or actions become public, and having my protagonist have to grapple with what that means about how she sees herself as a person. So anyway, you can find my announcements for both of these story publications listed down below. It was a great quarter in so many ways. The whole major goal of a lot of writers is to be read and appreciated, and it's been a while since I've been published, and to have a twofer like this is pretty amazing. Of course, this sort of thing isn't always the thing that comes up in quarterly wrap-up videos, so you have to enjoy the journey as well, but it is nice to pause on the successes too. And especially because otherwise I do feel like it's been a little bit of a lackluster quarter. I talked in my last quarterly wrap-up video about joining the Writers' Hour of the London Writers' Salon. It's an online daily, or actually several times daily, technically, a writing group where it's just about writing. You sign into the Zoom and you have an hour of writing time where you can write quietly but together with a group and then share your progress. And it has been great for me when I've used it, but I've really gotten off the wagon, and it's been difficult to get back on. I make so many excuses for myself in the morning about other things, including making this video that I have to do. Yeah, I mean, we all have things to juggle, but the downside is then I lose this great camaraderie and opportunity to slowly make progress on my work, particularly my fantasy project, and we'll see how that might have influenced some of my goals down the line. So yeah, it's kind of sad to think how excited I was last quarter, and I've dropped the ball. And of course, I could try to get back into it. The other major writing group I'm involved in is the DC Writer Salon, which I am still very heavily involved in, especially the twice weekly Finishers group, which is another in-person opportunity for me to gather with other people and to write. And other than a few times, most particularly and recently for the Jewish high holidays, I had to take some time off for that. But otherwise, I have been pretty consistent with that, and slowly but surely, getting work done with my fantasy novel, mostly with that. So that's been great, and I've also attended other events with that group as well. Even parties, stuff like that. We had a Saloniversary party, which was really fun. And I attend what are called affinity circles, which are more specifically geared toward people who write in different genres. So I went to a couple of fantasy circles where I actually did have the first chapter of my novel critiqued, which was fun to go back to the very beginning again. And I went to another sort of process meeting where we just talked about, the ins and outs of various parts of writing science fiction and fantasy. I've had to kind of take a step back from the short stories group because I haven't been writing short stories in a little while because I really am dedicated to trying to finish this fantasy novel, or at least a draft or something like that. I have I'm in a beta group for my fantasy novel, so I have some external motivation as well. So unfortunately, I haven't been writing short stories. I would really like to get back to that, especially probably it'll be in 2024, but I would like to at least write one story in 2024, and we'll just have to see what a good time for that will be, and then hopefully the short story group will still be around and I'll be able to, get some feedback and things like that. So yeah, it almost feels like a little bit of a mixed bag of a quarter, but the good news is very strong, so at least there's that. Speaking of all sorts of publications, my second part of this video I dedicate to my blog writing, which is another big component of my annual or technically monthly writing, even if it's not fiction, which is the major impetus for making these videos, is to hold myself accountable for my fiction writing. But I do maintain 3 blogs and post at least once a month to each of them. So in this section, I pick out my favorites of the quarter, 1 per blog. So this quarter, I'm going to start with Chava's Footsteps, which is a blog where I talk a lot about either Jewish culture or pop culture, or sometimes both of them together. But this time it's really more about pop culture. Another thing I actually mentioned last quarter in my blog is San Diego Comic-Con, which at the time was in the near future. And as I predicted, because of the writer's strike and later the actor's strike, Comic-Con was very affected. Usually it's this showcase for Hollywood studios to show off what's coming next, but with, so many writers and actors unable to talk about their projects, a lot of studios pulled out, and so it was a really strange con that I didn't attend in person, but usually remotely what I do is I, look online. A lot of the panels are streamed, or a lot of, there's a lot of news available, and it's a fun way to, keep on top of where my favorite TV shows and movies are at, because, there's a lot that continued to play or will be playing soon, but very few, if none of them, had any presence this year at the con. There wasn't much to talk about. So ultimately, I did talk more specifically, I guess, about how the strikes impacted things. And hopefully threw in my 2 cents in support of the writers and the actors who are a big part of what make these stories we love so possible. My next blog post, I think I'm going to try to highlight. It's a little bit of a cheat. I mean, not the blog itself. It's my Jewish DC blog where I chronicle events happening in the Jewish area. very occasionally what I do is I write out lists basically of upcoming events for holidays and that sort of thing, which I never, highlight in this video because this video is all about writing, not like list curation. But in this case, I decided to highlight my DC High Holidays and Classes and Events list that I made this year because I also made this brand new graphic for it that I'm hoping to use every year, and I'm really excited about it. I think it came out really well for my amateur self. And yeah, it's not writing, but it's a type of artistic expression, and it should hopefully have a long life too, so I'll link to that post down below. And finally, in my reading and writing life, well, a lot of the posts I wrote this quarter, you'll see down below because I referenced them if you'd like to know more information about my publications. But another one I wrote was about thinking through my writing life as I enter a new decade because my 40th birthday was in July. So I was trying to think broadly about where I was with my goals, particularly with this fantasy project, which is sort of my big magnus opus of the moment that I am slowly but surely trying to realize. And so I was just trying to think of that, and also the writing groups I mentioned and how I fit into those communities. And so, yeah, it was just sort of a reflective step back about making writing into a journey, or maintaining it as a journey, and where I am on that journey as I enter that, new decade. It's always nice to take a step back and reflect on where you are, where you've been, where you're going. And in that vein, I get on to the meat and potatoes of this project, my summer 2023 goals recap, where I will reshare with you the goals I set for myself last quarter, and at the end, see if a certain SEPTA has to visit me. All right, starting with goal number 1, it was to submit my short story to a submitted journals list. So Submit.it is a website or a service for especially literary short story writers, put out by a man named Eric, who has this fancy smanchy algorithm where he's collected a bunch of prominent literary journals, and he charges a fee for editing services, and then also to give you a list of what his algorithm sees as the best possibilities for publication. And to have that helping hand with the wild west of publication is really amazing. And he has a huge acceptance rate for his clients, like, over 65%. So I had decided to do that with Lashon Hara, and indeed, as you might have inferred from earlier, it bore fruit. Not only did I submit to the list he gave me, but I very quickly got an acceptance from Fiction on the Web, which I wouldn't have submitted to without his help, and I'm also so grateful for his final edits that I was able to put into the story. So yeah, it worked out great, and I'll link to Submit.it down below. I'm certainly hoping to use that service again in the future. Goal number 2 is to draft my fantasy project up through chapter 39, and even as I made this goal, I realized how crazy ambitious it was. It would require me to, write 3 completely new chapters a month. And that is not usually my speed, especially when I'm not only writing the chapters for myself, I am sharing them with a beta reading group, and so I would like to have at least a little bit of polish on them. So yeah, things kind of quickly did not go in that direction, especially taking in other things like how as the story progressed, as is my process, I kind of go back and forth. I call it ping-ponging, where I write until I feel overwhelmed, and then I outline until I feel overwhelmed, and I definitely hit a wall where I needed to rethink or I need to rethink and overhaul a bit of my outline, and rethink and overhaul some chapters. In fact, in my next beta reading session, I'm going to be submitting a rewritten chapter for people to consider. So that's where I am with that. It is definitely not something I succeeded at in terms of getting all the way to chapter 39, but I am still slowly and surely chugging away at this project, if that means anything. And my goal number 3 is to promote good news when there's something to promote, because I started out my last video with a tease about Mishkan and its publication, so I do certainly think that I have promoted myself in my publications this video and in other places as well, so, you know, that's always great to do, always great to count your successes, but these are also accountability videos, and with that in mind,
shame, shame, shame.
you know what I thought I could put in as a pithy joke at this part is that I should send Septa Anella with her bell to, you know, the Capitol in D.C. because I was pretty sure when I'd be creating this video that I would be on furlough because of a government shutdown. But at the very last minute, they did pull things together. So I guess, you know, Septa Unella is free to leave Congress alone, you know, unless she finds something else to disparage them for, which seems like it could be very easy for her. But anyway, as I'm cast into a little darkness here because I'm filming this at a weird time in the morning, I am going to get to my final part of the video, my autumn 2023 goals announcement. And for many of us involved in the public, especially fiction writing community, we know that autumn 2023 is the quarter of quarters when it comes to your writing life if you take part in NaNoWriMo, which is National Novel Writing Month, a huge endeavor to try to write 50,000 words of a project in just 1 month. So, yes. I always have a couple of goals that, you know, allude to NaNoWriMo. So I will start with goal number 1, which is my big NaNoWriMo 2023 goal, which is to complete a loose draft of my fantasy project, which feels like it should be something in the bag because traditionally what you're supposed to do with NaNoWriMo is dedicate all of the words to one project. I am a bit of a rebel because I break up my 50,000 words among various projects because I felt like I would rather be successful in a lot of things than have to basically throw out most of one project, if not more than that. So this is what works for me, but now I feel like I am being a little more traditional because I think what I have a much more concrete major goal in terms of my novel and play. So yeah, we'll see how it goes. But before we get to that, I have to complete goal number 2, which is Preptober 2023, an October goal for NaNoWriMo, which is to overhaul my fantasy project outline again. You know, for me, overhauling the outline is a normal part of the writing experience, but I do feel like if I'm more confident in what is coming down the road, it'll make things easier, certainly, especially if I'm trying to write much, much quicker with this draft than I have lately. I don't know. Sometimes I feel like lately I only can see definitively a couple of chapters down the road. I still have my, you know, ideas for the ending, you know, in broad strokes. I know how it's going to end. I hope I can get some broad strokes for all of my chapters. We shall see how that goes as well. And finally, for goal number 3, I figured I'd step a little bit away from Nano and from my fantasy project and, you know, nod to the rest of my writing life. So I'm going to say goal number 3 is to submit my flash fiction piece to places. So yeah, one of the last things I had critiqued with the DC Writer Salon and various communities is a actually, it might have just been my short stories affinity circle, but anyway, it's a flash fiction piece that I wrote, and after the successes of this quarter, I feel confident about stepping into the ring again. I know there will likely be a lot of rejections in the future, but I thought it might be fun to, you know, see if anything good could come of this. Right now, I'm not going to use Submit.it for this, I don't believe. I think I'm going to try on my own for a little bit first and see what happens. I have some places that certainly are places I might hope to get published because of personal affiliations. So yeah, and hopefully next quarter I'll be starting with more good publishing news. But, you know, knock on wood for that. And of course, as I've been saying, the important thing is always the journey. And with that, I will leave you for another quarter. And you can find links to everything I've been talking about down below, the organizations and announcements about my publications, and more on NaNoWriMo if you want to join us for this crazy endeavor in November. I will be back on this channel in a couple of days to give my thoughts on another big project I'm involved in, the 2023 BookTube Prize. The BookTube Prize is an annual prize where the literary community comes together to judge the best in literary fiction and nonfiction published the year before, and I'm an official judge, and I've been reading all year in both divisions, and so I'm very excited and investment for what books will ultimately make it to the top, and I will be giving thoughts on my finals ballot in just a couple days, so stay tuned for that. I do hope all of you are celebrating your good news and also reveling in the journey of your artistic lives. And yeah, I guess I should get off before I'm, completely outshone by the sun here. This is supposed to be my moment. So anyway, thanks so much for watching, everyone. Keep writing, and I'll see you next time.